another go at these war reports. Second war report of the war. This is, I think, 4 days after the first one. 3-4 days. A fair bit's happened. Some stuff happened directly after the first one, which was probably the bigger stuff. And then there's been some kind of lots of little things. I'm going to rush this a little bit because I have to go to work in 40 minutes. So hopefully we can get this done quickly. So let's get straight into it. See if I can get this to work. There you go. That should have worked. Let's move this over here. So the map is still very similar. Insmother is still the majority of the attacks, and it has moved a little bit up. We'll look at that in a second on some of the other maps, but you can see here pretty much Insmother is not under Horde influence now, so we can pretty much move this green line up to here. There's no light influence here either, so that's all gone. Let's just load up. So we've got Insmother here and Insmother here. So let's look at the, I think this is the previous Insmother. Yeah, so this is the map from the previous war report. As you can see, there's still some stuff under contestation, and goons were staged in X2. Then this is the map today. So lots of stuff has turned over to goons in sovereignty, and lots of stuff that wasn't contested is now contested. So this area towards cache in particular, but there's also an area towards the spire. There is a little bit of counter intosising, not much. So there was a fleet that went and intosised EFM. It's kind of, I think it was more to just get a fight and do something with harpies. Goons came and had a fight as well, so there was a fight had there. I think I1 was a small gang, I'm not sure. Some of these are really low ADM, so they take 20 minutes to entosis, so it is, you have to form and get there quite quickly. I entosised one down, I think it was A24 or maybe L5, and it's obviously only 3 jumps from where goons are now staged. So this is the black line, so goons have moved from X2 tac and they've gone to C tac J. From here they can go boom boom, where is it? It's like 3 jumps to EFM, but they'll bridge obviously, and they can also bridge over to basically all of Insmother they can go to. They also control the movement through Insmother a little bit better. You can still kind of go through EFM, go up here, go through EFM, go down here, and there's not really any goon presence in that area most of the day, so you can still quite easily get in, but they control all this core bit, and they've done a lot of soft work. They have stated in their State of the Alliance, if we look at the notes here, it says, on the 10th of the 6th, Asher Elias made an announcement, Goons moving forwards to C-Tech J and Insmother, and it gives them bridge range to EFM, most of Insmother, and allows them to attack cache. That's his words, not mine. I'm not putting that in his mouth. He says they want to attack cache. So I've drawn some lines. This is where cache is. And then we have this little file bit gone. Then we've done cache as well, he says optimistically. Last time I think I had this all opened up. There you go. So these are the gates from Insmother, so they can hit this whole southern bit of cache quite easily. Cache is a slightly different layout than Insmother. It's a lot less systems. It's all owned by NC, which is a small ally of Horde. Like, I only say small because of the numbers. They're quite a rich old alliance. So some of their players will have quite significant assets that they're prepared to use in wars, like Titans and Supers, but numbers of player wise, they're in the hundreds to 150 man fleet area if they form everyone. Obviously from cache you can go to outer passage and you can go to the spire. I think top of my head both of these are controlled by ourselves, by outer passage, the spire. So this is kind of the outer edge of our core space. So this, I think the spire is considered drone lands core, like actually drone lands. I'm not 100% sure. I think it is drone, basically anything that is spawning drone sites purely and not pirate sites is. So cache, I think, still spawns pirate sites. Outer passage, I'm pretty confident is drone sites, and obviously outer passage is next to Paragon Falls. So this is where Gobbin said the line was our passage for definite. That's a I think the spire might be as well, but I don't know for certain, so I don't want to say that for definite. Great Wildlands. Have I got this wrong? I might have got this wrong. Great Wildlands was where I thought the inset for Horde is to cache. I think it is. I think Horde can go like a bridge pretty much to here and then go straight through. So there is some possibility that if they go to cache, there might be more fights, which would be fun. Looking forward to that if that's the case. If that's not the case, then this will be very much like when we stopped fighting over Insmother, where there'll be maybe small skirmish fleets, but this may slowly just get churned down, which will take between a week or two, depending on whether Goons want to go ridiculously hardcore effort. That's the puppy going absolutely insane. Sorry about that. 1 second. He's not stopping. And let's just get quickly into the actual report. He'll stop in a second. Someone just literally closed their car door outside our house. So he just thinks someone's coming. They're not. Horde did an announcement just before Asher's announcement, and this was around the time of the keepstars dying. So Horde said they're going to move additional subcap doctrines to the front, further increasing the options. So there's a few more battleship cruiser things they can do. Things that exploded in Insmother. There was, I'm going to fly through this, so I'm going to put this in the description. You can go and read the battle reports if you want, and some of these are not as detailed as I've done on the past one. Some of them are more detailed. I've not got this down to a fine art yet, but hopefully I'll get more efficient as we go along. So there was a Goon exeq navy issue fleet. So this was a situation where Goons, one of their smaller groups, like 20-30 dudes, were forming up exec navy issues. They were coming into our staging and they were taking what they could, basically doing little skirmish fleet stuff. Pretty common in a war. They put down a deathstar post, which is an old structure which basically you can man it and you can make it shoot things quite quickly, but it can also be completely unmanned and it can automatically shoot enemies. So they're a bit of a pain, and you don't want. They provide a POS bubble which the ships can fly into. Even if they've got aggression, they can fly directly into the POS bubble and you can't engage them at all. So it's quite useful for that specific type of skirmish fleet. So they've got somewhere they can go, they can run away. If you chase them, you're going to get shot by some quite nasty guns. Some of our FCs learned some stuff about deathstar POSes. The Tornado FC Rodney learned a lot and lost some tornadoes to it, and then I think later on it was killed with basically a full capital fleet, because in Eve you know whether the other side can get to your capital fleet, and if they can't get to it, you can use it. And Goons cannot get through the EFM regional easily, and to a degree that they would be able to deal with a capital fleet. So I think there was a fleet of battleships and a load of dreadnoughts. It was one cycle of dreadnoughts and the POS died. So that was that. That went on for a bit. They did get a jumpfrieghter. There's a jumpfrieghter kill in the reports. You can go and have a look at that. I'm always pretty impressed by people who catch jumpfreighters, because you basically shouldn't be able to. It should be jump, dock, and then you're safe. There is a little window if you don't hit dock where your ship is not tethered and you have this tether delay, but if you immediately are hitting dock and you don't disconnect and things like that, then you should be fine. There was a response fleet here where they were fighting the Goon exec navies. I think involved in this jumpfrieghter battle report is they killed the jumpfrieghter, and then a little bit later they got chased back into the neighboring system, and then they put their post down, and then they were just in EFM for a little bit. Anyway, that's enough about that. Then on the 10th, which was like literally the night of the first report, I think, the EFM and HB TAC keepstars exploded. In the first report we talked about HB TAC. HB TAC is basically the midpoint. So when you've got capital ships, sometimes you'll say it's a midpoint where you need to jump there to then jump to the next place. By killing HB TAC, it basically meant there was no way for Horde to move capital ships from staging in Ethereum Reach to Insmother without jumping through the regional gate. The problem with jumping through the regional gate is that you can jump the capital ships through, and one or two bubblers, interdictors, can then bubble that area, and they cannot jump to wherever the fight is. So it's not considered like a strategic way to get your capital ships into a fight, or a reliable way. You would have to have a subcapital fleet controlling that gate, which leaves you -1 subcapital fleet for the big fight. And there's chance that even with the subcapital fleet, your capital ships are still getting stopped. They also have to warp from the structure to the gate, jump, and then. So there's another point there where when they're warping, they can get bubbled like there and get stopped. So you just basically don't do that. It meant that Insmother, basically, we weren't able to project capital ships into. So that was very necessary for Goons. They did a good job of winning the... I think there was 2 fights over HB. There was no major fights over EFM. Were there? I don't think there was. The hold timers for these HB tac, there was no subcapital presence from Horde. Goon Swarms had Fortizar. They tethered their supers to the Fortizar. They used the supers carriers, and they had subcapital fleets. At the same time, the EFM timer was ticking. They sent a battleship fleet on its own, a Raven Aviation fleet, to basically pause the timer. They were making slight progress, but essentially their job is to keep that timer still while the hull trickles down. While they did this, they were contested by... because they weirdly didn't have gate control with subcapital ships. I think maybe if you're just a single fleet and you're right next to the enemy staging, it makes sense to not leave your subcapital tacklers there, because it's kind of risky. They were in bridge range of their other subcapital fleets, so Horde can't really commit fully to that single fleet without expecting all the other fleets to arrive. And I'm pretty sure they had some significant fleets. I think I counted 7 subcapital fleets for the final bit of the EFM keepstar explosion, plus all those supercapitals. So they had quite a significant amount of force. That's kind of been the theme. Goons have got really good numbers, and you've kind of got a full commit if you're going to fight that. So very difficult to fight. So fair play to Goons for getting the good numbers. And all the different doctrines and things like that, they've got it all sorted out. There was some minor skirmish. There was a tornado fleet that got through the gate, and a few people just in very small annoying ships. I was doing a double Bifrost boosh thing, where I was booshing from the tether into their fleet, and then my second boosh would go off and it would pull a little bit of their fleet 100 kilometers back, and then those pilots had a choice. They either warp off, which in my opinion is the right thing to do, or they tried to micro warp drive back towards the fleet. Typically it was grabbing like 10-15, and most of them were getting either back or warping off, and a few of them were getting caught by either the keepstar itself. I think there was one basilisk who is just killed by the keepstar. I think that was because of the booshes, and some of the other ones were getting killed by the tornadoes who were warping at range and shooting them. Because you're 100 kilometers away from your logistics, the basilisks, you don't have any logi, so it's a free fire situation if you don't warp off. Later on, all of the other fleets came in. They'd finished HP tech, they came in, and the tornado FC noticed that there was a Barbaroga who had been max damage on the first kill, so he made the assumption that that Barbaroga pilot was just going to sit in Bastion, which is the mode that Marauders can use. It makes them unable to receive logistics from like healing from other ships. They have to sort themselves out for 1 minute. The tornado guys warped over. I was listening on comms, and he did catch shield reps at the end, but the tornadoes were killing all of the shield every volley plus some of the armor. So I think they did quite a few volleys into him. I think they were on grid for a while. There was also max tie-dye, so there was a lot of like high energy about that kill. So that was fun for them. The overall result, obviously, keepstars are very expensive. So there was 597 billion-ish loss for Horde. There was also a Fortizar. I don't think there was anything really done with the Fortizar. I think it just died. So 597 loss for Horde, and then 38 billion-ish for Goons. The majority of that was split between a Rorqual that warped down to the keepstar before it died, Keepstars have a capital ship doomsday weapon that they can shoot capital ships with, so the Rorqual just exploded to that. So it's a little bit of a mechanics lesson for that Rorqual pilot, and the Barbaroga was like 14 bill. There was a smattering of Raven Navy issues, which were all worth like 600, 700 mil, so that kind of pumps it up a little bit. I think this is a funny one because both sides were really happy. Obviously, Goons were really happy that the Keepstars died. When you get into this situation in EVE where there's Keepstars and things like that, and you have a no contest situation, both sides kind of don't like the attackers care because obviously they're getting a big kill mark, and that's really cool. And it's part of the overall like idea of EVE in people's heads, these huge fleets, big things exploding. And then the skirmish FCs were happy because they killed like unique ships and kind of did a bit of practice on what they wanted to do, and they like both sides I think like the feeling of you can't contest me, like the big ships can't be contested, the big fleets can't be contested, they're going to kill like Keepstar whatever, so they kind of win. And then the tornadoes also think that they can't be contested because they're in zoomy tornadoes and they're killing things with impunity as well. So a weird one. It makes for very toxic chatter in local and on the various Twitch streams because everyone thinks they've won, and everyone thinks the other guy's an idiot, which is, you know, everyone's just playing the game. I think that's kind of, there was a lot of energy there. I don't know if I want to say it was funny, but I don't think it's funny. It's not really ha funny. It's just kind of, there's a lot of energy. People are enjoying the game. People are enjoying getting some content. I think when you're defenders and you're losing, which is basically we can say that Horde is losing. We're losing Insmother, right? So we have lost. You can't say we're not losing. Whether we could have done anything different, I don't really think we could have, but that's a different discussion, and it's not really what this report's about. So let's move on. So the 11th was some skirmish stuff. So there was EFM, yeah, so I think Zigam went to Entosis EFM, or somebody was Entosing EFM and Zigam noticed, and Goons formed Harpies there like 3 jumps away, and Goons formed Flycatchers and Horde formed Harpies, and then NC formed Cyclone fleet issues. And there's a little bit of discussion here. So the numbers advantage was massively in favour of Horde hits. 129 Horde versus 66 Goons. The initial Entosis attempt on EFM is kind of pointless at this point, but it's still a fun thing to do just to poke. The reason it's pointless is that the nodes for EFM to capture it, for the second bit, are going to be like right on top of Goon staging in the region that we don't have our staging in, right? That's Goons is staging it. So very unlikely that that's going to do anything. They're going to lose that second Entosis. So Goons didn't need to form for this. They did. They formed some Flycatchers. I think the logic here is that initially it was maybe just some Entosis dudes. So it's like, right, just film some Flycatchers and kill them. They got there. The Harpies are next door. So the Harpies came in quite quickly. I think if I was the FC of the Flycatchers, I think I also stay and fight the Harpies, because it says here they have the Flycatchers have better health than the Harpies, and they have similar damage in a straight up brawl. So if you're like really close to each other and the Harpies go into antimatter, they're doing a few hundred DPS, which is roughly the same as what the Flycatchers do. At long range, the Flycatchers do much more because their DPS doesn't really change to do with range, whereas the Harpies, when they get closer, they get higher damage ammo. The Cyclones throw it off, and the report I got from this, so the Cyclones, what I mean by that is the Cyclones are significant upship to the Flycatchers, right? So they're gonna, if you go toe to toe Flycatchers versus Cyclones, you're losing a lot of Flycatchers. And what I heard from Zigam, who was FCing the Harpies, is that they managed to get a boosh off onto the Flycatchers and pull a chunk out, and they basically just killed that whole chunk, which is a little bit of a play, so that you know, you can't, as a Flycatcher FC, you can't go into that fight thinking that that's definitely going to happen. So that was a bit of a play, made them lose. The ISK war, kind of minor, 4 bill to 300 mil, so 4 billion ISK is, it's not too much. It's like single capital ship, less than, or a single small structure. There was another small skirmish. This was a Horde FC with a Jackdaw fleet, 20 Jackdaws. Just went and killed some Sinos and stuff. 1 billion ISK of Sinos, very minor. They had fun. this is the kind of thing where I'd love to be able to include the Goons versions of this, and if I spot them I will, which is why I included the jumpfrieghter kill. I don't mind including that kind of thing. It's just I don't see them. These are even hard to see from Horde side. There's a few I found randomly just by chance. Yeah, this Mohist one. So Mohist is I think they're allied. I don't think they're a corp in Horde. I think they're an ally of Horde. It's same, not really much difference, but for this point anyway. But they killed a Barbaroga, so there's another Barbaroga that died. Seems like Goons really like using the Barbaroga. It's a fun ship, and that was killed with just random kitchen sink stuff in the Goon staging. So that sounds like pretty much all stagings everywhere. There's always some dude who's got some shiny ship, and he always undocks it to fight the 10 guys, and he's convinced he's going to win or everyone's going to help him, and they somehow get him away from the situation he thought was going to happen and kill him. Nothing's invincible in Eve is what I've put. This definitely has been happening a lot in MJ TAC. I considered doing like what's been going on in Horde Home. Basically, the Horde standing fleet is 5 jumps. MJ is 5 jumps away from staging. MJ is our center of our industry and things like that, and is a common place for small fleets to go and harass, block the gates, that kind of thing. And the Horde standing fleet will go over there and brawl with them, and if there's a big fleet there, then sometimes an FC will form a home defense, and typically that'll be much bigger, and the enemy fleet will just move away, because why would you fight big fleet? If you look at the Z kill for MJ TAC and the neighboring systems of TDB, ZE, and C3JR, you will see a lot of dead Horde, because organized fleets usually win versus random standing bros who doing things like this with the Barbaroga. So this is not a Goon only problem. In fact, probably there are less fleets in Goon staging, just because I think it's not really in the headspace yet that Goons are just next door and you can go and skirmish Goons. I don't think tons of people are realizing that. So yeah, whereas it's very much in the headspace of people like Fraternity, Init, random wormholers, that if you come to MJ now, it's very unlikely you're going to get a flash form right on top of you from MJ, so you can you've kind of got this slightly easier time, means they're going to get a lot of kills there. Right, so let's move on. So the Delve Theatre, I decided to do a little bit more on the Delve Theatre this time, not because particularly anything special's happened, just because it was so lacking last time, and I just kind of want to try and give a little bit more information about how it works down there. I'm not currently flying down there much, like slash at all, so this is all second-hand information. This may be incorrect, and it's kind of what I'm reading from battle reports, either like Zkill itself and the timings of fights, or the written battle reports from the Horde perspective. So take it with a pinch of salt. There may have been stuff I missed, but let's go through it. So on the 11th, there was a 3-way fight. It was Goons versus Can I Bring My Drake? Brave and Goons versus Can I Bring My Drake versus Pandemic Horde Bro Sig. That's the deployment Sig. The timing of it is super brief. It's like 10 minutes, and Horde left a monitor which died. So the reports I've seen and also heard is that Drake and Brave were brawling, I think over a Forzar. Horde third party, like flash formed and third partied, and Goons did the same. Horde got there first because we're closer. The deployment sig is closer, and then Goons got there a little bit after. So it's on Zkill, the timing is it's just Drake killing Brave and vice versa, and then a few minutes later Horde are killing Brave, but Drake disappeared from the kill, so I don't know if they warped off or like left. And then Brave are killing Horde, and there's no Goons on the kills for about 4 minutes. So there's like obviously a bit of a both sides happy to engage at that point maybe, and then Goons start to be the majority of the kills. So I think what's happened there is Brave and Drake are fighting. Drake's left for some reason. Horde have come in similar time, or like 5-10 minutes later, and they've started to fight Brave, and then a few minutes after that Goons have come in. The fleet compositions was Horde was in Retributions, Drake were in Macarials, quite a nice pirate battleship. I think it's probably my favourite ship in the game. Brave were in Munins, and Goons came in Vultures. Retributions are a assault frigate, so a full fleet of Vultures, they're just going to have to leave, and it looks like they made that decision quite quickly. and they got their monitor caught, so the monitor died, which is the fate of many FC monitors, especially when you're monitoring and you're in a small ship fleet. You know, you're the easy thing to grab. Then later that day, I think this was later that day. I didn't actually look at the times. This may have been before on that day, but I think it was later. So Drake and Brave were going at it again. I think Goons had gone home, and then Horde appeared after the fighting started and shot only Brave. So this may well have been a dogpile, and it definitely was even if Drake had disengaged, it definitely was a dogpile of the Horde groups, because the numbers are like mad against Brave here. So Drake were in Macarial's 55-man fleet, and Brave were in Raven's 78-man fleet. So you've got maybe a 20-man advantage, and you're in a weaker ship. So Ravens are a Tech 1 battleship, and Macarial's a pirate. So this is kind of an acceptable brawl situation. You might get some kills if you're Brave, you know, who knows. And then Horde came in a 91-man Raven Navy issue fleet. So that is a significant, it's an upship and it's a numbers increase on Brave. And then Pandemic Legion came in a 31-man Legion fleet. So there's like, just on its own, even if, what I was trying to say before, is even if it was just Horde and Pandemic Legion coming in and Drake had disengaged and it was this 78-man Raven fleet, they're still like vastly outshipped and outnumbered. There was no Goon involvement in this fight. I don't know whether they were on the way or what. And the battle report was pretty heavily swayed. It wasn't huge though. I think it was like 9 billion-isk of Ravens. There's an advantage of having cheaper battleship doctrines, is you can take these fights and see without losing, you know, everything you own. Whereas if those Macarials or if the Raven issues died, that's like twice as much, 3 times as much maybe in the case of Macarials. So yeah, I've done a little bit on other features. So this is more kind of random stuff. So so this one I wanted to research a bit more, but I ran out of time. But Horde took 150 FNIs for a very large wormhole, and there was capital ships on grid, I'm pretty sure, and it was swinging in Horde's way, but there was, as far as I know, there's reinforcements coming, so they were kind of trying to get the capital kills before that happened, and a grid break happened. So that's when in the game your ship is surrounded by what's considered a grid. It's not surrounded by your ship actually, it's just in the game there's like a big square, basically a big box, and then if you're on the other side of it you can't see what's in the other box, and that's very uncommon to actually witness in the game. But it's basically when you're near a keepstar but you're not quite close enough, you can't see the ships docked in it, like flying around it, but then you suddenly will be able to see them. This happened right in the middle of the fight. There was a grid break. It meant that Horde couldn't see, like quite a lot of the fleet couldn't see some of the ships, and they couldn't target them because they were on the wrong side of the grid by like 5-10 kilometers, and basically meant that they didn't have the focused DPS, and they couldn't sort it out quick enough with that extra reinforcement fleet coming in, so they couldn't kill the capital ships, is what I've heard. It's a bit of a weird one. Horde disengaged. I think it was this positive, and it's weird that I know that story, but I don't have the links. Like, this wasn't a battle report that I found. Like, sometimes they will link the Z kill, so I don't have the specifics of the battle report to really go through. I've also included the Black Ops kills in Delve and Quirios for the time period for Horde. Now, go through and look at these yourselves. There's billions of this worth of kills here. The area is obviously getting bombed by hunters. There's no kind of counter to this at the moment for Brave or Dracaris that's working. So these are just Horde, but there are other ones happening as well. And this is not to say that Horde has not got similar things happening to them. There are definitely lots of groups who are quite happy to Black Ops either side. But I just thought I'd post all those so people can scan through them and see what's going on. It's kind of Horde just pushing the ladder a little bit with Delve, and then Horde lose 2 blops to a solo golem. So this was, you don't see the fit for the golem, but it was fighting versus, you know, it was a hunted golem, so I assume it was doing a sight or something, and it had, as far as I can tell, 3 Black Ops battleships dropped on it, and it killed 2 of them. So mad props to Endless One Journey. The Z kills there, you can have a look, and I'm pretty sure those Blops guys had a red face. So this is Horde losing Black Ops ships, and then I found some random kills. So these were kind of on the route from Goon's home to Goon staging. And this is what happens basically when you try and move stuff solo through regionals. There was a solo carrier and another one. NC had a covert ops gate camp and killed a 2 billionist pod. And there was some ENIs who killed a random NPC corp carrier. So it's not really part of the war, this one. But just showing, that's just an interesting Z kill, just to show basically a carrier can get killed by cruisers because they don't actually have much in the way of defenses. Let's close all this blank space up. That's pretty much it for this report. I think there's going to be a little bit of a lag with movement. I think Goons are probably going to sit in that staging and kill everything left in Insmother. Oh, that mentioning killing stuff reminds me. This was a nightmare this week. So Insmother, so this is, yeah, so this is the right timescale. So you can see here, so Insmother has had loads of stuff explode. So it's had 17 FNRs, 8 Metanox, 12 Astra House, 2 retirees. There are no Ansiblexes left in Insmother, so that's, you know, they're all dead. 10 Fortizars, which is a lot of Fortizars, 3 Tataras, 1 Asbel, 1 Keepstar. I think there are a few Fortizars left that just didn't get finished. You basically need a large fleet to kill a Fortizar. So this was 10 different fleet forms. Some of them may have been in the same fleet, but it's a lot of work. So that's probably the only reason why any of the forts are still left, because none of them have been defended really. In retrospect, like looking at Delve, there's been a lot less. So there's still been some. So there's Athanors, Metanoxes, and Astra Houses. In Delve, there's one thing I didn't include, which is Brave have been killing neutral Metanoxes. Now I'm using neutral with a heavy pinch of salt. I don't know directly who put those Metanoxes down, and they're in this random holding corp. I would suspect they're Horde Metanoxes, and I would suspect they're for blocking purposes. I don't know for certain. I think off memory, I couldn't think quickly enough to figure out a way to put them in here. I think what I'm going to do next time is color them. So and the easiest way to tell whether the Metanox is kind of aligned with a group is who kills it, right? That's, if it's killed by Brave, then it's a friend of Hordes. That's kind of how that works. And they were all killed by Brave, so they must have been kind of not Brave. And then there was 1 Astra House. Quirios, there was a few Athanor, 3 Astra Houses. Then I had a quick scan through those outer regions of kind of the edge of Horde space. I couldn't find anything in Scalding Pass, I don't think. I found a Fortizar in Great Wildlands. This was HB TAC, I think, and the Keepstar in Great Wildlands, also HB TAC. Cash had an Astra House and an Ansiblex. I think there was another Ansiblex which was reinforced but defended, because there's definitely 2 that I saw reinforced. The Spire had Athanor and Ansiblex, and Cobalt Edge had some Athanors and some Retirees. The Cobalt Edge stuff was all the initiative, and specifically a corp called Worthless Care Bears. The history there is Worthless Care Bears used to be part of Horde. They left for initiative and didn't really communicate that very well, and just kind of started to move stuff because they felt like they wouldn't have been let out, I guess. And lots of other corps have just been given a grace period and let go. Things got a bit nasty, and I think one of their Titans got killed on the way out and things like that, because it was kind of seen as a bit of a backstab by the Horde leadership, so they responded in kind. Also, there's some bad blood between specific corps. My corp Booser and Care Bears like to go at each other. We can field similar sized fleets, and similar kind of SP level, quite high SP. So these retirees died to exeq, and then they're getting countered by various things. NC actually countered one of the attempts with a nightmare fleet, and all that happened was they just killed one. They killed a Bifrost and a Zamzad, I think. So not much. The Zamzads, sorry, the exeq, it's like 20. It's a 25-man fleet, and they use a carrier to move around, which is the new mechanic, the carrier conjurers. So they quite mobile, they're cruiser size, they do a lot of DPS, and they're very tanky. So you need to form properly to deal with them, but they are kind of at the level of a skirmish fleet. The counter, the drawback is they're super expensive. So if you do ever catch them, they're going to lose a lot of ISK. But yeah, they're very effective at this kind of harass stuff, and that's what Initiative's doing. I don't think there's any greater purpose to this other than we don't like Horde, we're going to make some content. I don't think this is the Initiative invading. I think it's just one corporation who has a grudge. And then an Answerplex died in Geminet, which was Fraternity. Fraternity turned up in like a 150-man fleet and killed one of our Answerplexes. I'm unsure as to what's going on there. I think that's just a slow creep of just killing things, because Geminet is kind of like right next to Fraternity, right next to us. So I think that's just kind of, we can kill it, so we're going to kill it kind of thing, something to do. I heard rumors, and I haven't researched this, but obviously there's meant to be a war going on between Initiative and Fraternity. I've heard rumors that it's slowing down and both sides are kind of thinking. Now, if Initiative decide to take advantage and attack Horde on like the other side of Horde, that could cause a lot of problems, more problems than Horde are already facing. And if Fraternity decide to do nothing or something, it just there's potential that something is brewing. Now I hope not, because I kind of like the dynamic of Horde versus Goons. I think that the numbers are close enough that big fights can happen, right? Whereas I think if you include Fraternity in it again, or if you include just one of them, it then becomes untenable, and you then just have a either a steamroll where everything's just getting steamrolled and there's no fights really, and everyone's just moving stuff to safe spots basically, which is kind of what happened to Goons, although they obviously fell back and coalesced. I don't know if Horde have that option with how the game works. I don't think we have that kind of constellation that Goons had, with the iHub being in the specific spot and the logistics of NPC delve, things like that. Basically what I mean by that is you can jump to NPC stations in delve and then jump to the main delve from Losec, so you kind of can't be stopped getting your reships and resources in. That's all a bit conjecture though. It's not specific. There's not like any real reason to that. Hopefully you're enjoying the war reports. I didn't change microphone this time because I'm in a bit of a rush, so if there's still that popping coming through, I do apologize. Obviously we've had a lot of dog noise in this one as well. Hopefully that was useful. Have a good day, and if you like these, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the YouTube things. It helps just get the videos out there, and then that helps me to, well, it encourages me to make more, I suppose. All right, I'll see you on the next one.